You're looking at a stunningly beautiful landscape in Cameroon, but it holds a terrifying secret. We're about to unpack the science behind one of the strangest and, honestly, one of the deadliest natural disasters in modern history. It's an event that completely defied explanation and revealed a threat far more complex than anyone could have ever imagined.
So, welcome to the Cameroon volcanic line. It's this region of just idyllic hills and ancient crater lakes. But on August 21st, 1986, this peaceful scene became an absolute nightmare. Out of nowhere, Lake Nyos unleashed an invisible killer that just swept through the valleys, bringing sudden, silent death. And get this, in a single night, 1,746 people lost their lives. There was no earthquake, no big volcanic eruption, no flood. They just stopped breathing. They were victims of an enemy they couldn't see or hear.
And the devastation didn't stop with the people. Over 3,000 cattle were found dead, along with countless birds, insects, you name it. The sheer scale of this invisible slaughter was just staggering.
All of this happened in a single night. The few people who survived woke up to this eerie, profound silence, surrounded by the bodies of their families and their livestock, with no wounds and absolutely no explanation.
So you can see why this baffled scientists and horrified the entire world. It all boiled down to one crucial question. What in the world could kill so silently and on such a massive scale?
The aftermath was a total mystery. I mean, with no signs of a struggle or any kind of conventional disaster, investigators were just faced with this eerie, profound silence. Investigators quickly started to piece together the path of destruction, and what they figured out was chilling. A massive cloud of carbon dioxide, which is way denser than air, had basically erupted from the lake. This 50-meter-thick cloud flowed down the valleys like a river, moving at 50 kilometers per hour, pushing out all the oxygen and suffocating everything in its 23-kilometer path. Yeah, this was, without a doubt, a natural disaster. But it was more than that. The Lake Nyos gas release was the largest and deadliest event of its kind ever recorded. It was a truly unique and terrifying catastrophe that literally created a whole new category of natural hazard. So how does a lake just explode with gas? I mean, that's the question, right? To solve this deadly puzzle, scientists from all over the world descended on Cameroon to figure it out. Right away, a few different theories started flying around. Was it a volcanic eruption from underneath the lake? Maybe a sudden release of trapped gas? But the evidence, it pointed to something far, far rarer, a phenomenon known as a limnic eruption. And that was the final conclusion, a limnic eruption. This happens when a deep lake gets saturated with dissolved gas. In this case, CO2 seeping up from magma deep in the earth. The incredible pressure from all the water above traps that gas at the bottom, basically turning the entire lake into a giant ticking time bomb. Okay, the best way to wrap your head around this is to think of a can of soda. For centuries, CO2 was seeping into the bottom of Lake Nyos. The lake's deep, stable water layers acted like the can itself, holding that gas under immense pressure. Then, in 1986, something acted as a trigger, probably a landslide, that shook that can. The gas-rich water from the bottom was forced upwards, the pressure was instantly released, and all that dissolved CO2 erupted in a massive, deadly explosion. So you'd think solving the mystery of the killer gas would be the end of the story, right? Well, not even close. As scientists figured out the gas problem, their investigation uncovered a second, equally terrifying threat, one that was hiding in plain sight. It turns out the very thing holding the entire lake in place, a natural dam made of volcanic rock, was dangerously unstable. So they came to investigate a gas disaster only to discover a catastrophic flood just waiting to happen. And when I say unstable, I mean it. The dam was alarmingly fragile. It was only about 40 meters high and made of loose pyroclastic material, which is basically just weak, crumbly volcanic debris. It was barely holding back the immense weight of the lake. You could see it with your own eyes. The dam was riddled with fractures. Water from the lake and heavy rainfall were constantly seeping through, basically eating away at the weak material from the inside out and threatening a total collapse. Now, if that dam failed, the results will be absolutely catastrophic. A huge wall of water would surge down the very same valleys the gas cloud had just devastated. Simulations showed the floodwaters traveling over 80 kilometers, all the way to the Nigerian border, threatening more than 15,000 people. So let's recap, because this is wild. Lake Nyos presented a triple threat. You had the silent gas eruption, a catastrophic flood, and the constant risk of landslides that could trigger either one of those. Managing this incredibly complex danger required a really sophisticated approach. This risk matrix here really lays it out clearly. While landslides are pretty frequent, the risk is considered tolerable. But a dam failure or another limnic eruption, however rare they might be, would be so extreme that the overall risk is classified as catastrophic. You just can't ignore it. To tackle these risks, engineers came up with some pretty ingenious solutions. For the gas, they installed these huge degassing pipes that basically act like permanent straws, constantly and safely releasing CO2 from the lake bottom. And for the dam, they used a technique called jet grouting, which is where they essentially inject columns of concrete deep into that fragile rock to stabilize it from within. But, technical solutions can't erase the human tragedy. Over 4,400 people were displaced, and many still live in resettlement camps decades later. And despite all the danger, many survivors feel this powerful pull to return to their ancestral land, which creates this really heartbreaking dilemma for everyone. Do you stay safe, or do you go home? Ultimately, the story of Lake Nyos is a stark reminder that nature's dangers are often all tangled together. The very same geology that created this beautiful lake is also what created the gas threat, the weak dam, and the landslide risk, a truly deadly web of hazards. Science and engineering have helped tame Lake Nyos, for sure, but this whole disaster, which came completely out of nowhere, leaves us with a pretty chilling question. How many other silent threats are just lying dormant across the globe, waiting for the right trigger?